Great. So shall we then begin formally with this session?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Welcome to this is the good afternoon to everyone here in the UK and our friends here in Europe, and of course, good morning to everyone joining us from Latin America. Welcome to the Augmented and Virtual Reality panel of the Latin American Technology Forum 2021. I'm Javier Prida, and I'm very honored to be moderating this fascinating and increasingly relevant panel on this very thought-provoking technology that's becoming increasingly present in our lives now. Just a few housekeeping rules before we officially get started. Our idea and our aim is to make this session, this panel, to be as dynamic as possible. So please feel free to type in any questions or comments you may have here in the chat box on the right side of your screen, and we will endeavor to respond to as many as possible during the Q&A session at the end of the panel. Now, just a little bit of my background. I'm a technology, media, and telecoms lawyer working at Preschool & Co., which is a London-based international law firm specialized precisely in the technology, media, and telecoms sectors, and has ample experience advising both UK and Latin American tech companies in all their legal needs. Preschool & Co. is recognized as leading experts in the telecoms law and regulation, and have major expertise in IT, intellectual property, and data protection law as well. Preschool & Co. is the member of the is the UK member of the Lexing Network, which is the leading global network of emerging tech law firms in the world. And on a personal level, besides being, an avid VR fan myself, I've got my Oculus Quest here, which I've started to use ever more during the pandemic, because I'm also a very big music fan, and one of the things we miss the most now is live events, and these technologies in the past seem to be very futuristic, and I guess my first message that I want to come across, and I'm sure that the panelists who I'll introduce shortly will agree with, is that virtual reality is now a reality in and of itself, and it's no longer a thing of the future. It's very much present in our lives. But as I was saying, besides being an avid VR fan myself, my professional experience in this fascinating technology industry has been mainly in dealing with the sophisticated legal issues that take place behind the scenes or behind the headset, more suiting me here. And so that's from negotiating with a wide variety of contributors, and protecting the intertwining intellectual property components that sustain and drive this industry at large. And I will just move on to a very brief overview of the topics that we will be discussing today before I introduce our very special panelists. We will, of course, be addressing the virtual reality and augmented reality landscape, the recent technical developments and the future of virtual reality, both in the UK and in Latin America. And of course, the underlying, I'll try to, raise awareness of the underlying legal issues that are present throughout the industry. And just a very quick differentiation for those of you who are very new to this fascinating subject, and the applications that virtual reality has in our day-to-day lives. The examples include tourism. You see virtual city tours and museums, gaming and interactive entertainment, as I mentioned earlier. Now you can see live music concerts and even live sports events through these headsets with infinite seats. So it's also a very interesting business proposition for the industry. And as a user, you have the ability to choose, the viewing angles when it comes to these live events. There's real estate, as Adrian will further delve into in a few minutes, education and remote learning, enterprise, geoscience, mining, and engineering, which will be delved in deeper by our friend Claudia Ruiz Graham. Just some quick differentiations about the concepts that we will be discussing throughout this session. VR is the short term for virtual reality, and that's where the user have an entirely virtual experience. Augmented reality, in contrast, is when there are virtual elements that are added to the user's real world. Then there's mixed reality, which is a hybrid of reality and virtual reality. So the merging of the real and the virtual worlds. Some very clear examples of augmented reality would be, the funny, wacky filters that are available on social media, such as Instagram and Snapchat. Those are very clear examples, but I'm sure that our panelists will bring even more thought-provoking examples of how these technologies can be applied in practice. So now I'm very, very pleased to introduce Claudia Ruiz Graham. She's the CEO and founder of Imaged Reality, which is an enterprise-oriented VR. I'll let her, of course, introduce the company in greater detail, but just a few lines. Imaged Reality developed 3D Gaia, which is a virtual reality platform that brings the field to the office or classroom, connecting expertise where it is needed. And the platform has applications in geoscience, mining, engineering, and in the environmental area. So, Claudia, without further ado, the floor is yours. Our aim is to keep these introductions within 5 minutes, so I'll be sure to let you know if we're exceeding the time, just so that we have time to make this more of a dynamic discussion. But the floor is all yours, Claudia.
Thank you very much, Xavier. It's a pleasure to be here. Just a bit about the context about the company and myself. I'm a geologist by background, born and raised in Colombia, and living in the UK for nearly the last 20 years. I have an industry background in oil and gas. I'm an oil explorer. And in 2016, after 18 years with BP, I left the company, and then I started Imaged Reality, that is in an immersive technologies startup. Let me just share my screen. I want to show you a couple of slides here. The platform is called 3D Gaia, and our aim is to bring the office to the field to the office or the classroom. Geologists and engineers go to the field to study rocks to help them predict what to find in the subsurface when they are exploring for resources, either in hydrocarbons, geothermal, mining, and so on and so forth, or when they are doing environmental assessments. These field trips, can be expensive. A single field trip can cost up to $100,000 a year. Not everybody gets to go, and some are hazardous and of limited access. And this has been amplified with COVID-19. Virtual reality offers a fantastic solution to bring the field to the office, and that's what we do. Just want to show you a brief video of our platform. It integrates satellite imagery. Here we are visiting a platform of rocks in Ireland. You can see this is a high-resolution outcrop model derived from drone data. We are at the base of this cliff looking at some geological features. You can see the sea right there. This is the actual location of that cliff. And this is the closest we can get to the edge of the cliff. But in virtual reality, I took you there flying. And this is one of the fantastic things about virtual reality. You are immersed in the virtual space. You can see, outcrops of real scale integrate different subsurface data, which makes it very, very immersive. We recently did a virtual field trip with Shell. They took geologists to the field, and then they went to VR and compared the two. Let me see if this sounds some sound. You're going to hear some testimonials.
I think there's tons of potential in that technology. Great learning tool, great way to have a collaborative discussion with a group of people, not just geologists,
So it's really great to bring multidisciplinary teams together, and you can bring any type of 3D models, so engineering models. Basically, you can leave a ton still in your hands in virtual reality, or pipelines, or 3D models in the air. We also have a desktop version for those not available in VR. And recently, we did a workshop with industry experts, and the workshop was delivered to 20 geologists and engineers in Nigeria using our desktop version. The advantages that we see of VR: immersion increases cognition and knowledge retention. So that means that you get faster insights. So that means that you're able to communicate better with others and arrive to better and improved decision making. You can also get safe access to hazardous areas, and if you're providing training, you can have a wider reach of training. And you create an immersive multidisciplinary team integration, which is fantastic. I think I'm gonna stop here and then just open for any questions.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for a most interesting visual representation of how these technologies can be applied in a real life scenario. And now I am pleased to move on and introduce you to Adrian Posada. He is also the CEO and founder of Virtual Estate, who is a specialist provider of virtual visual enhancement services to the real estate sector. So just another very interesting example of how these technologies can be applied. They have expertise in virtual reality and augmented reality, which allows them to enable clients to showcase, the real estate projects anytime and in stunning detail. So, Adrian, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Javier. Hello to everyone, and thanks for the invitation. We are a virtual reality and augmented reality provider for the real estate industry. I'm going to put a small link there in the chat just for you to see what we do. And the main thing about us is that we see virtual reality not only with a headset, but with a smartphone. So you can see in just a web link what we are going to build in a development of plan, and see obviously the building, the interior, the exterior, something that is going to be built in 2, 3, or 5 years. So the main issue here is to help the commercials that they only sell with a render or just with a floor plan, and we can do more than that. And we don't need so much things that the virtual reality and augmented reality in your smartphone without an application. So it's just dynamic and simple. That's what we do since 2017 in the UK based. We have the technical team in Argentina and several partnerships around the world. And we are our differential is obviously the high quality detail of the interiors and exteriors in 3D, moved to the VR and AR tech. I'm going to share a link because I can't share the screen from my phone here, but I'm going to share a quick link later on the chat box.
A most interesting application of this technology, and Claudia, you getting back to what you were mentioning, what do you think are the main applications for VR for enterprise?
So what we have seen in terms of applications for enterprise has been in industrial use, for safety training, for example. Also, companies like Jaguar are designing or have used virtual reality to design, the car models in VR, using some fantastic platforms that are available out there for that. And in learning, so basically providing training to organizations. In the oil and gas industry, people are working now with the digital twins for operations and installations, so enable people to visit virtually their installations, and then taking people to visits to hazardous areas virtually. That's another use. Another use has been around community engagement, being able to explain to communities in a virtual world, what is the impact that your operations have on the communities, on the local community, or try to project that image. Those are sort of the key things that we have seen in of applications of VR in the industry.
I think we lost Adrian, but in the meantime, as a follow-up question, what do you think the advantages are of VR in learning and remote collaboration that you mentioned?
Well, I think I'm really passionate about it. I have seen it on my own field in geology. When we go on a field trip, just to give you an example, when we go on a field trip, we have a bunch of 20 geologists standing next to a rock, and then you have the instructor and that has a piece of paper on an A4 size, and 20 geologists around there trying to look at what the instructor is really pointing at, right? Or the instructor trying to point in the distance, look at that fissure on the rocks that are slightly to the right of the house with the red top, 50 meters to the left, right?
Yes.
So, and then the people are, what? Where is that you're pointing? In virtual reality, you are able to point directly. You have a laser pointer that takes you there. You are able to fly there, to jump off a cliff, and it's a very vivid experience. So that means the brain is really engaged. You are able to see what you're as instructor. You are able to draw people to your viewpoint. You are not like just passively receive it through PowerPoint. It's just fantastic, and it has been proved over and over that immersion, that degree of immersion, increases cognition and knowledge retention. And imagine it's not only in the area of learning. When you get people, multidisciplinary people, you get the commercial people together, you get the technical people together, and trying to explain concepts to each other that for the other disciplines might appear abstract, just having them in a virtual environment that takes you to better decision making.
Absolutely. And now moving on to what you were mentioning, Adrian, and in line with what the areas where Claudia's technology has been applied in practice, have you seen any reluctance in your area of expertise with people resisting the use of virtual reality technologies?
Yes, daily. The commercial area in real estate is in that point is like vintage. So they are used to another things and say, okay, I like the technology, I like that it's new, but I have a company 30 years, so I don't need that to sell, I don't need that to survive, I don't need that to get well known. But well, I think that the COVID-19 gave us a push in this area, in every area, because I know that in Claudia's area too, and I think that is for in my perspective, I think is the most the area that is going to be more boosted because of this COVID-19 about learning and training. And I'm trying to get this to educate people for the commercial area and say, okay, I'm giving you tools for giving you like a short path to the commercial area and get the transaction done. So it's hard for people, but when they get it, they say, okay, so they discover a new tool, a new thing that they could do it, and it's not that hard to see it, to get it. So it takes time, but in the next 2 years is going to be a more delighted times for all of us that get us with the VR and AR.
Absolutely. I think that with any new technological developments, there's inevitably some resistance at times, and it just is a matter of increasing awareness through projects of this nature, and also emphasizing another important point in the deployment of these technologies in both of your examples is the reduction of the carbon footprint, which is also something that could be underscored when trying to engage with potential clients and make them aware of the positive impact that these technologies can have environmentally speaking. And what would you think, Claudia, that companies should be looking for when adopting VR technologies?
Well, I would say, usually companies start with a pilot of testing the technology. We sort of test the proof of concept, right? Mm-hmm. And there is usually an innovation department that can have the funds to fund that pilot to test that technology. Mm. But once that phase is complete, it's very important that innovation group is well connected to the business, because it's the business side of things that will be driving the demand for the product. If there is a disconnection, it makes it more difficult for people to adopt the technology. For the companies out there that might be a bit wondering about cost and stuff like that, the hardware is becoming increasingly smaller and increasingly less expensive. Now, for example, a standalone headset, the consumer one just costs nearly just $300 or something like that per person, right? But obviously, a company will have to have enterprise support and making sure that the system is compatible to their internal systems. But I would say start with a pilot and start with make somebody in your company a champion for VR that is is aware of the technology and helps the startups navigate through the large organizations.
Absolutely. And Adrian, in line with that, what do you think is the landscape? What are the main differences between the Latin American and the UK landscapes in terms of market maturity in the use of these technologies?
I think that always Latin America wants what happens first in Europe. Mm-hmm. So it's like first happens there, and then we want it in Latin America. I see a difficult, an issue here because of the connectivity. Maybe the 5G in Latin America is going to be later than in Europe. Among all of these VR updating things needs more and more faster connections, and obviously in Latin America we have a lack of that. Maybe now in Brazil with the 5G arriving with a new company there, it's going to be faster, but in the rest of Latin America it's going to be tough, that kind of things. But besides that, I see that the maturity of other markets in Latin America are already doing it, because they are not afraid at that point of taste something new. Maybe I see some limits in, for example, in the real estate in UK, we have some limitations there. They are always asking only for renderings, and it's a bit tough to get there and say, okay, you can see the difference, but they don't take that step forward. Yes, in other US and in Spain as well, I see more ongoing on the technology.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's also very contrasting between both jurisdictions, the number of jurisdictions in Latin America and the UK, is how regulators are approaching the use of these technologies, as opposed to, for instance, artificial intelligence, where there are very specific regulations that apply to the use of those technologies, they haven't been there hasn't been an immediate urgency to produce legislation specifically for the use of virtual reality. Of course, there are points of contact with other regulations such as data protection, and increasingly so now that they are, the headsets are now starting to do face tracing and body tracing, so the use of biometrics becomes a concerning issue, of course, in terms of data privacy. But then again, I think it's encouraging to see that at least the regulators so far have not been introducing barriers to the deployment of these technologies. And as you said, Adrian, during the pandemic, we've seen a surge in the purchasing of these headsets throughout the world, and that's also been directly linked to the pandemic, because I've personally been using it to stay in touch with, and even share moments with my brothers and my friends who are across the country. Now especially during the first lockdowns when we couldn't even meet outdoors. So they're increasingly relevant, but there are also other underlying legal issues to be aware of. For example, in terms of intellectual property and who owns works of art that could be created through the deployment of these technologies. But again, these are regulated areas that are beyond the technology, which I think is encouraging. And then
sorry, Javier.
Yes.
Javier. But I think that we are missing one point that is important in Latin America, and we have to say it. That is when you have to import things, it's not that easy. Well, in Argentina, it's not that easy now. So the hardware and software is getting so much higher, so that you have the developers, but it's difficult to work with the software and hardwares that are day to day more expensive, more prohibited to import, and that difficult. Obviously, it's only in Latin America, so it's something that I think that we have to focus on, because if we want to develop, if we want that Latin America can provide good knowledge and brains in developers and programs, we have to see that point, because they can't work if they don't have that. They can't develop.
Absolutely.
That's a key point there too.
Absolutely. No, that's a very real challenge that many companies face, and it's worth bringing up. Yes.
If I may add something that has worked really well in the UK. The UK has bodies that look to connect startups with businesses and with business needs, and I think that's having that support from local governments in Latin America. That help to make those connections and foment the innovation. That would be great. Here, for example, we have Immerse UK, which an Innovation UK and Digital Catapult that acts like these centers of incubation for new technologies, and as a platform to connect businesses to these technologies.
Absolutely, yes. I think it's been a very pleasant to see how the UK has been opening more and more to the world, and to create these opportunities for startups specifically, and tech startups at that. So it's always encouraging to see those efforts. And I guess on the points that we were mentioning, we just need to create awareness first of all in the use of these technologies in Mexico on all these fronts, in terms of the points that we've been discussing, but also to ensure that that there's these technologies, at the end of the day, as Adrian pointed out, rely on each country having the adequate infrastructure in terms of communications and import and export controls in order for this to be profitable. And but one thing that I hope we can all agree on is that the Latin American market is definitely a very interesting market with loads of potential, and and this is why I think it's important that we go over the challenges that can be faced in that region, and what they can learn from the UK market, which is a bit more mature and robust in that sense. And when would you feel that it's the right time for companies to enter into the virtual reality and the augmented reality market? Adrian, or whoever wants to pick this one up. I think this applies to both of your industries.
So for me, the time is now.
Time is now. I agree.
There are fantastic solutions out there that can help companies do their work better and can help the companies prepare their workforce. And I think Latin America offers great potential for that. With all the industries, all the heavy industries that there are in Latin America, oil and gas, mining, the construction is a big sector. Yeah. So definitely the time is now. Here in the UK, there are predictions of growth of virtual reality and immersive technologies of 78% growth in 5 years' time, over the 5-year period, adding 62 billion to the UK economy by 2030. Yeah, so it's developing big, and I think Latin America, key companies in Latin America should start looking into this.
Those are very, very staggering numbers, and in terms of the differentiation between these two technologies, virtual reality and augmented reality, which one do you think will dominate in the near future?
Augmented reality.
Augmented reality, Adrian?
For me, I think that augmented reality, because I know that virtual reality, both of you are obviously pushing forward for what it is really, that is with the headset. But you have to know that both of you are the low percentage of people that wants to interact with that, because you have to go to the common people there when you go to the exposition or something like that and show. And it happens to me that the people, it's like it has to move just one step more until the headset is done for that kind of people. I think that if we want to get this for everyone, we have to see that it's a step by step, and they have to see with a better with something that they can interact without maybe the headset just in the first time. I have like focus group of people that 80-90% of people, it's like having some kind of issues or feel dizzy because they are not aware of that and they are not used to that. So obviously that if you train people, if you educate people, or maybe in the schools, as obviously in UK, I know that schools are applying this kind of technology. They are getting used just when they are kids. So it's a really good thing to know about it. But I think that in this term of commercial things, that not everyone is used to the headset, and we know that's why maybe in Microsoft you have the Google Lens, and it's like less invasive for people.
Easier to adapt. Absolutely. It took me, I need to acknowledge that it took me quite some time to get used to it, because there's a lot of motion sickness associated with it.
If I may, on the other side of the flag, I think it depends on what people are looking for, and in terms of the motion sickness, it depends on how the app has been developed. There are some apps out there where the user experience has not been paid attention to, and yes, people get dizzy, and these are awful experiences, right?
Yes.
But in our case, we have paid a lot of loving care and attention to the user interface. We have 99.9% of acceptance of the platform, for example, in VR, and it's being used in companies by senior people. It's not the youngsters, but it's also senior people who are using this and are teaching with this. So it all depends on how the platform has been used, has been designed, and what people want it for. I think with augmented reality, I think obviously it has a lot of potential. I will say my only limitation with augmented reality right now is that your field of view is limited by the headset that you are using, right? And what you have in front of you, right? And the capability of what you can do with the data on that is somehow limited by the technology right now. With virtual reality, you can achieve more things with the data just because you are totally immersed. So once you get people trying over it and can get into the virtual reality headset with a good virtual reality application, then the story is different.
So would you say, Claudia, then you are betting and rooting for virtual reality as opposed to augmented reality dominating in the future?
I would say there is going to be a space for both.
Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be a space for both. Ideally, we're going to get into the headset. When the headset gets developed, that is so light that you take one control and you're able to be both in the real space and also in fully immersed if you want to. I think that's where technology is heading. Yeah, but it has to be a very light wearable.
Absolutely, but Adrian raises a very valid point as well, because it does take some easing into, and even before these technologies were mainstream, so to speak, and they were available in amusement parks, etc. I remember, if you had one bad experience with a headset, you wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. That happened to my father, I remember, and it even happened to me when I bought this, which was during the pandemic, and I started using it. At the very beginning, I was getting very, very dizzy, to the point that I wanted to return the headset. But then I read articles, and it said that you need to really ease into it gently, and your mind gets used to it. So, but it requires a lot of patience. And as you said, Adrian, if it's being introduced on the education front from a very young age, that will certainly help the industry at large.
Now you have AR glasses. For example, you have AR glasses, and the market and the industry for AR glasses is growing faster and a lot more than the virtual reality headsets. That's a fact. But from the other hand, and I understand, Claudia, that is the different audiences. My audience is not the same as Claudia, so obviously the people that Claudia needs to engage and reach, what she offers is the best tool ever. So they need it. So they have to make their mindset another tip to go further to that. In my case, that is most of the people that I have to reach on. Maybe the people who is reading a newspaper, watching TV, or going to a local shop. That kind of people. That is obviously the most percentage. You have to go a step back and then forward to introduce what is going to happen to them. And obviously in AR you have the limitation of the view of the device, but it's not that invasive for the people. They are not feeling that they are not in control in the environment. So maybe it's a small step for them go further to all of the glasses that they're going to in the market, the VR, the AR, and everything.
Yes, I agree. But I agree with both points raised. There's definitely space for both technologies to coexist and to grow further. And of course, we are just, this is another example of how segmented the application of this technology is. There's and we've yet to discuss the application in the health sector, which is a field in and of itself. So absolutely, it depends as well on whether on who's using it and for what purposes they're using it. No, but there's also an increasing entertainment field where it's gaining a lot of traction, and there's even now esports tournaments being devised just for this type of technology, which is using the mixed reality, which is also quite interesting to think about. So if you agree, I think now is a good time to start speaking about our closing remarks and conclusions before we finalize the event. So Claudia, if you want to conclude, please.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you, Adrian. The challenges you raise, you make some very good challenges for the area of consumer side of things, and definitely I take that. My invitation is for people when you have the opportunity, just try either augmented reality or virtual reality. You're bringing together teams, the power of bringing together teams, multidisciplinary teams in an immersive environment is like no other. The brain is used to thinking 3D. And over the years, we have been just dealing with this 2D interface. So that means that you get faster insights and better decisions, which in turn, are gonna traduce into better margins and better revenues and better management of costs for your work. So get to try it if you get a chance.
Absolutely, Adrian. Would you say are your concluding remarks?
Well, thanks both of you, and I think I want to make 2 points here. One of them is that I move forward with my thought about educating more people to get more into VR and AR in any kind, with a headset, without a headset, but they have to go forward and go for it. Don't take it's not being afraid of. So that's why I always encourage people to get used to that. And I think that the best way is to get it with a smartphone, because people always had this in their hands. From the other hand, I think that Latin America and UK has to be more with more tightened relationships, because it's difficult for Latin American people here to get those founders or going to Digital Catapult or Immersive UK, as Claudia said, because there is a lot of really good minds here in Latin America that are competing with Ukraine, India, because of the inflation that we have here. The cost is obviously lower and it's cost effective, well, with the type of knowledge that people could do here. Maybe with some efforts between both places, I think that everyone is going to have a win-win situation where Latin American could provide the developers and could be applied in moderate markets as UK.
Absolutely. I think that's those are very, very interesting, very interesting points. And I think one of the key takeaways following this most interesting panel session is that while virtual reality and augmented reality are certainly enhancing areas such as gaming and entertainment, as we've discussed, there are also important applications such as real estate, as you delved into, Adrian, enterprise, as Claudia was mentioning, and of course geoscience, mining, and engineering, and the environmental positive impact it can have in reducing the carbon footprint is also something to bear in mind. And of course, the underlying be aware of the underlying legal issues that take place behind the scenes in terms of IP, consumer law protections, data privacy across the globe. And of course, these matters tend to change significantly from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, right? But it's been a very, very, very interesting and thought-provoking conversation, which just illustrates the point that I raised at the beginning. You know, that virtual reality is now a reality. It's still a growing industry, but certainly a very promising one. And just to paraphrase what Claudia said earlier, it's now is the time for companies to start thinking about this. So I want to thank both Adrian and Claudia for your most interesting contributions on this encouraging future of these technologies in Latin America specifically, and of course in the United Kingdom. And many thanks also to the audience for your time and your valuable contributions as well, and to the Colombian, Mexican, and Argentine chambers of commerce and all the organizers for putting together and ensuring that this LATEC event was a success. And we look forward to continuing the conversations offline. You can find our information in all the literature and the promotional materials that have been distributed. And we'll be hanging around, as it were, in our booths. There's a preschool booth where Danny Preschool, who's also speaking right now, he's the senior partner and founding of our firm. He's speaking at the Legal Tech panel, and we'll stick around to see if anyone has any further questions. And of course, feel free to reach out directly to either Claudia or Adriana or myself if you want to discuss anything further. And thanks again, everyone, for your time. Have a great afternoon, everyone in the UK, and have a great rest of the day to our friends in Latin America.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.